Welcome back to the Bonsai Builders Podcast. I'm your host, Addison Galambos. We often talk about the learning journey, but today we're talking about the leap and the hurdles you can potentially learn from that professionals go through as they set up their own practice. Many of us dream of doing what we love for a living, but few of us actually have the conversation with the universe that kind of changes everything and opens up that path. So my guest is someone that I admire a lot, I've learned from, and that has gone through that journey himself, and that is Todd Schlafer. So Todd's based out of Denver, Colorado, and I would say he's at the heart of the Colorado bonsai scene. So I was really drawn to him for his incredible work on native kind of high altitude species like Colorado blue spruce and Rocky Mountain juniper, though I know he does a lot outside that as well. But before he was Todd of First Branch Bonsai, he was an art director in a completely different, business oriented world. So we're going to talk about that transition, kind of the struggles of building a professional nursery, and then the rugged beauty of Colorado bonsai. So Todd, thank you for joining the show.
Hey, Addison, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you. I think the first actual professional classes I took were with you out in Colorado. So, that was the beginning of my journey to trying to make a change in my bonsai practice. So it's really fun to be able to check back in with you and also hear about all the changes that I've been admiring on social media at the garden. So thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for asking me.
So, you really took a leap of faith kind of transitioning from your established career into bonsai. Now that the nursery was founded, what, was it about 4 years ago? Or how long have you been in operation?
Well, so I left my job to do bonsai full time on March 3rd, 2017.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, but it was out of my old house that was, the whole property lot was maybe 6,000 square feet. So it was small, but that's kind of where I started. But to lead up to that, I knew, March 3rd, 2017. So in 2016, September, I made, this choice I knew I had to do something else because I'm pretty patient. I'm pretty tolerant, and I was just becoming irritated with people at work a lot. And it's I need to make a change. And so I talked to my dad a couple times, and, he said, if money wasn't an issue, what would you do? It's I'd collect trees and do bonsai. He goes, that's what you should do. So in September of 2016, I finally decided that I would do that, but to quit my job and then to do bonsai full time in the fall going into winter, I figured was not the wisest choice because that's the slow season. So I told myself, all right, March 1st, that was the date I said. So then I had 6 months to call clubs, get a hold of people that I'd sold trees to, because that was it. Before I decided to do bonsai, I had a website, First Branch Bonsai, but I mainly sold raw stock of collected trees. So people kind of knew me through that. So I just kind of started going around and telling people what I had, or what my thoughts were. It's I could come out, do a workshop and bring trees, or, and I was telling them I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to do bonsai full time. So I had 6 months to kind of basically cold call some people and just kind of set things up to where when I left March 3rd, then I already had work already planned.
Income coming in and work. Yeah, it makes sense. That's cool. I think it's smart that you did it in that way, right? Where it wasn't a spur of the moment decision. Or at least even if it was something that you made sure you were going to have the foundation for, right? How, what was kind of the acceleration period? Did you find that work was really hard to come by for the first year or 2 years? Or did you pretty much were fully booked pretty quickly? How did that kind of work curve go for you?
Yeah. So going into it, I had large sections of time that I had no work, but then immediately, I don't know, stuff just filled up immediately. And people were I'd get calls out of nowhere. It's hey, I'm, in New Mexico, or I'm in Kansas City, or I'm in wherever, can you come out and do some work? And so that really filled up. And then like I think a lot of people were kind of testing me to see what my abilities were the first time. And so I'd go there, like maybe in June, they're like, hey, can you come back in October? So it very quickly got to a point to where, I'd be gone some like 10 days, I'd be home 3. I'd be gone a week, I'd be home 2 days, I'd be home 2 weeks. And, where I was just on the road. I was on the road constantly. Yeah. And I kept waiting kind of for the shoe to drop, and it never has. So I was very lucky that it worked out. And I think for people, the United States is so big and there is so much work that if you're willing to travel, a lot of people, I think you can make a living doing bonsai, but you have to travel. So I think that's the key. And then the next point is, it's like you can make a living traveling, but then like getting people to come to you is a little more, it's a little harder. It's a little more expensive for them.
Totally. So if you kind of reflect back on, like, I guess the last 9 years now, what were the kind of transition points for you? Like, and like, how has your practice changed over time? So, I know, for example, that, now you have a new, like, one kind of touch point in that journey is your new nursery and home and like different upgrades in the garden and bringing more students on site. But I'm curious, like, did you shift, the species you were working on? Did you shift the types of work you were doing? How has that changed over time for you as a professional?
Yeah, I think like one of the things too, when I first started and you start traveling, and I was used to like my trees or friends' trees. And then as you travel around, all of a sudden you start seeing, especially raw stock, like trees I hadn't seen before, so there were a lot of times where like you go out and you're kind of stumped because it's like this guy has a collected, Doug fir or, whatever the species. And even like native ones I'm used to, there were trees where it's like, oh, I'm not exactly sure what to do, but I'm a professional, so I'm supposed to be able.
You're supposed to know.
Yeah, so there was like this really big learning curve with a lot of that with species. I don't know. It's like I guess my strong point or like, we're our natives, especially like to the Rocky Mountains or, some of the species further south, but still those collected kind of native species, that's kind of my forte. But then, I don't know, but I like working on black pines, I like working on, like I just got back from Texas. So it's like they're ash junipers and like Texas is a whole different thing. Like they're cedar elms. I think that's one of the transitions is all of a sudden, like I fell in love with deciduous trees where I wasn't like that. It's, like when I first started my practice, I was traveling so much, I really didn't have time to take care of any of the deciduous trees I had. So I sold them all, but now as I've gone back, I've started buying like Texas cedar elms and Japanese maples and tridents and whatever interesting hornbeams, just things like that I can work on. And it's a different approach, but it also adds like something different to the garden where, it's like in the fall, you have your spring and then your summer and then the fall colors. So it's like, it's very seasonal for them.
Yeah.
It's really, it's interesting. So that's one thing I've really kind of fallen in love with and started, may have more of an appreciation for like other people's deciduous work too. So
yeah. I mean, that makes sense that as you get more experience with something, like you want to keep it new and fresh, right? And so you might rotate through different species that are like top of mind for you or that you have an interest in studying more, right? So that totally makes sense. You also made a comment about like, hey, in the beginning I was traveling a lot and I didn't have time to take care of certain species because of their care requirements. That's always a question I have is like, there seems to be this dichotomy between, hey, I am starting out my professional career and I have to be traveling so much, but then like that's kind of the opposite of how you have your own bonsai collection, right? So did you feel like you almost had to stop doing bonsai for yourself when you started being a professional? And has that changed as you get more established in your own nursery or?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think so because I would be gone. I would be gone so much, and it's like all I did was work on other people's trees. And when I was home, after 10, 12 days working every day, I'm home for 2 and I have to leave again. Like, other than watering, I didn't really feel like working on trees a lot. And so, I if I had like a little stint where maybe I'm home like 5 days or a week, then maybe I get some stuff done. But I wasn't doing a lot of designing like during the growing period of the trees, and then over winter when things were slowing down, then that's kind of where I did a lot of my catch up work
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah,
during
and I
that time.
guess with deciduous, it's like probably a bit more important to be hitting those touch points and things like that right at the right time, right?
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, it's like, okay, you just lost all the ramification you were building or something like
Yeah,
that,
and
right?
that's actually why like I fell in love with deciduous was before. So it was we bought this house or the new where the garden is now and the house attached, right? So this whole area we bought in 22. So it was like either late winter 21 or early 22 because I knew we had to sell my old house to get the money to put down on something else, right? That's how we had to do it. And so we were staying in a like a temporary house, but all my trees were still at my old house because we were like renovating it and stuff. So every day I'd basically go to work. I'd get in my car and drive to my home, work on trees, and then I'd drive back to my
Yeah, that probably was a
temporary
pain.
house. But when I was there, I had this big. I still have it. It's I don't know 4 feet tall or something. It's this Japanese maple, pretty tight internodes. And I knew if I didn't work on that, I was going to lose everything that was there. And so I wired it. And that was like the point where I all of a sudden just fell in love with deciduous trees.
Oh,
So
that's
it's
a
kind
funny
of
story.
interesting how that worked. But yeah, you have to be if you're not on point with your timing with deciduous, you're gonna lose a lot fairly quickly. It feels like so.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you transitioned from a hobbyist to, or not, I mean, like
Hmm.
amateur to a professional in bonsai. I'm wondering, and the answer might be no, but did the actual like way that you do bonsai change whenever you made that transition? Like, did you find yourself doing, you know, like building bonsai with a different approach as a professional than as an amateur? Or did you just, develop more breadth of knowledge and make that transition? I'm just curious is like, does, the fact that you're now being paid for the work change how you do the work or change the result of the work?
I don't know if it changes like the result necessarily. What I think I have found over the years is that for one, it's like you're getting paid for it, and so like the decisions I have to make need to be are a lot quicker than how they were before. But also, as you see more trees, it's like you're able to make those choices. But also, it's like your speed. And so
Mm,
that's one thing. It's like how do I finish? Like a lot of times, you have one day to do a job, and it's a big tree. So it's like, what is the most efficient way that I can work to get this piece of work done without like compromising or just like whacking everything off.
yeah, that makes sense. It's like you have this big job and, you know, it's got to take 8 hours max or whatever time you have allotted for that
Right.
job. And it's like, if it bleeds into the next day, then it's not going to get done because you might have been flying out that day or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to, whenever you start a job, that does constrain you to some extent of like, I mean, obviously you're much faster than a hobbyist, right? Your skills are much more developed, but it still does act as a decision point in your work process.
Uh-huh. Without like compromise. So
Sure.
when I was just in Texas and I was doing a demo and they gave me this ash that was just an ash juniper that I'd worked on before, but it was overgrown and like really leggy and there's branches everywhere now because ash is like they're very strong. And so it's supposed to go to 10 to 1. So it's like, okay, 3 hours. But then like they start at 10:30 and then at 12, they're like, okay, we're going to end at 12. So I have an hour and a half to do it. So what I did actually with that, because I knew I was going to be there for more days, it's like, look, and they're auctioning it off. So it's like I didn't want to just cut everything back hard. I've done this twice. I did it in Texas. I did it in California once when there was a California juniper that Ben Oki had collected, and it was completely overgrown, and I had like 2 hours to do it. So what I did is, in both cases, like, look, I'm not going to finish this, but I'm here until this date. I'll get it done before then. So that way I can be a little more...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
just
do the
thorough and
correct
not
work.
like,
Yeah.
okay, I have 30 minutes to do this upper portion. I'm just going to cut 90% of everything off and then put some wire. So I actually did that in Texas because this last trip, because the amount of work to do justice to that tree in an hour and a half, it just wasn't enough time. So it's like, look, and when I do that, I do it on, like, that's my time. It's like, I don't charge anyone. It's like, it's just on me because it's a reflection of my work, and I need to be as respectful to this piece of material as possible.
Yeah. That I think I really respect that. At least I'm curious, when you're doing that, like, how do you make sure that the audience is getting the best, like, do you pick a specific scope of work that is accomplishable in the hour and a half to highlight, to like teach the audience, or like keep it entertaining? How do you handle that? Like, what do you do on camera per se, and what do you do off camera to maximize that?
So a lot of it's one of the fun things when I do demos, people, like, I don't know, they ask me about collecting trees because I did that too. And, and it's like now, because I had like water problems when I moved in here and lost some trees, I went down that rabbit hole. And so it's like I have a fertilizing regimen. And if you have hard water, I have ideas for all that. So there's a lot of just non-tree but horticultural discussions that we have, which is a lot of fun. But when doing those demos, the one in California, I just set structure because it was like lots of raffia, lots of gnarly bends. In Texas, because some of the structure was there, I laid out the structure that needed to be done. And then I wired, as we talked, I wired some pads so I talked them through that. And it's like, okay, here's like templates of what the rest of the tree is going to look like.
That's really interesting. I asked because I've been doing some kind of demos and things like that, or dipping my toes in for clubs, like local clubs. And that's like obviously being kind of early in my demo doing, I'm fairly slow, right? And so an hour and a half to wire a whole tree, like that can be a challenge sometimes. So I think like your approach is very instructive to me, at least, of like, hey, this is how you can kind of set yourself up in the tree to still have success, and seems like really, really doable.
I mean, and part of that, to be honest, I took that because there were times I pulled that from Ryan, where it's like, it's okay to do that, Ryan Neal, because there were times on Mirai Live where he'd be doing something. He's like, look, I'm not going to finish this tree. I'm going to set structure. I'll do the work this week. We'll show it again next week, and it's like, it's okay to do that. So I kind of, that's part of from where I pulled that, where it's like, look, I'm not going to overdo it or not rush it, because you kind of have to rush during demos, but I'm not gonna make sacrifices that will harm the tree
or the future of the tree. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that approach a lot. And I think there's a lot of, I feel like there's a wave out there of sentiment against demos, but I think the bad part is when people don't do that, right? It's whenever they cut off 90% of the foliage or whatever, because that's all they have time to wire, not because that's the right thing to do for the tree, right? So I think your approach makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a lot of value still in demos in terms of entertainment, as well as in terms of learning, as well as in terms of like inspiration, right? Like when somebody sees you knock out, 8 hours of the amount of work that they would do in an hour and a half in a demo, like that's impressive, right? And that kind of pushes people to like see where the bar is at for doing real bonsai work, because you don't really see real bonsai work a lot, right? So I think if you're just like coming to your club meetings every month or whatever, right? So I think there's still value in demos. It's just you need to have the mindset that you're talking about as
Yeah.
a demoer to make it
One of the
successful.
good things, like, sorry, at the trophy, they give you 4 hours.
Mm.
And so I've helped Ryan a couple times. So it's like me and Ryan, and then one year it was me, Ryan, and Troy. And so, yeah, like junipers, we'd clean the live vein, not like we would in our workshop, but we would clean it, and then we'd paint it, and then we'd wire it, so it's like 4 hours, 3 people. It's like, all right, so the trophy's really neat because they give you 4 hours to do the trophy. So it's like, that's enough time, to really, make a nice tree, make decisions, and really be able to finish a piece of work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think they're thinking of giving people even more time at the PBE, the next iteration for the demos. So that should be good. I really enjoyed your well, I mean, there were multiple demos, but I liked yours and Andrew's. It's funny. I've seen you guys do some more, like multiple more programs like that. Have you been having fun with that format of like a deciduous and a conifer, or like two different artists kind of talking through demos at once?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. So we did that, and then Andrew asked me to go to BSOP, the Portland club, 3 times last year. And so we do the same thing. But then he came out here in, I think it was June. So Graham, who's a student of mine, and he was at PBE, and he's like, well, why don't you and Andrew, do that same thing here? It's like, well, talk to Andrew because I don't want to step on his toes. And Andrew's like, yeah, let's do it. So,
oh, cool.
I don't know. It's really neat because you get like 2, very different species and approaches. And then I only have to talk half as much as I normally would. And Andrew only has to also. But I don't know. Andrew and I feel like we work really well together.
Yeah, you guys have a good like stage rapport, I think, for sure, too. That shows through. So
I think he's going to come out here, I think, again this year, maybe twice. And so we talked about doing that same format out
awesome.
Here for the Rocky Mountain Bonsai Society. So we'll see.
So that brings up a kind of question I had for you. How do you see symbiosis between a artist and a bonsai club? Like, what do you do that you think makes the club flourish, and what does the club do that you think makes you flourish? Like, how are you two successful together?
Yeah, so the Rocky Mountain Bonsai Society has been very supportive of me. And that was one of the things when I decided, like they have been from the beginning, but I also, and maybe it was just me, but I felt like, I don't know, it's one thing when you're like one of the club members and then all of a sudden you're a professional, but they're still like, well, you're one of the club members, so like breaking out of that, but also, I mean, I think having me here and having First Branch here has helped, elevate the bonsai trees in the club. And because of that, it has helped the Rocky Mountain Club, and it has helped their shows. But because of that, there's also, I don't know, there's more interest and there's a lot of people, coming into bonsai in this area. And then like they're also reaching out to me. So I think we, it's like we just
feed off of each other to some extent. Yeah.
Also, like there's a guy, David Kuntz, who's in Colorado Springs, and he came up here and studied, and he's like, I want to open a nursery down here. And is that going to step on your toes? And to me, it was like, no. And so I remembered, from all this, I'm pulling from like things I've heard and people and things I've seen like over the years. It's like I remember when Michael Hagedorn was in Portland, and then Ryan was going to come back, and Ryan was like, hey, Hagedorn, is it okay if I do this? And Hagedorn's like, yeah, the more the merrier. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to just help promote here. It's like, no, the more people, the better, because, if I can help Dave, and Dave's like, his practice goes up and he's able to start, making and doing bonsai for a living, it's going to help him. It's going to help me. Like, look what's happened in Portland, it's like you have Ryan, you have Hagedorn, you got Robson, it's just like, look at the club. The club's huge. So I don't know. I just want to help yeah, help build the bonsai community and help encourage people to do it, and yeah, like the botanic gardens there too, like Larry Jackal, he's the curator, and like him and I do not have like the same ideas or the same beliefs, but also every year he brings me in to do like a demo at the botanic gardens, and he like MCs it, and so we talk about it. We have differences of opinions, but he respects me and like I respect him, and so I don't know, it's just, I think one of the things too that has changed over time, it's when I first started, it's like, this is how it has to be. It has to be like this. I was taught this way. It has to be done like this. And it's like, well, there's different ways to do it, and so it's like not being so,
Like dogmatic. Yeah. Not being so
yeah,
standard or
dogmatic
like,
and narrow-minded about it. It's like, no, just let's see what other people are doing. It's like I study with Ryan, and I went to him because I love his aesthetic. I love, his the way he teaches, and I don't know, just like the way that he pushed me and made me, get better. So it's, I don't know. I'm here because of, I think, the foundation that I got from him, but there's also, I don't know, it's like you just got to pull from other people too, and he does that, and
yeah,
yeah, just
absolutely.
being so, I'm rambling here, but
No, no, that makes sense. That makes
not
sense.
being so narrow-minded about everything, and
Totally. Totally. So I'm kind of coming from my perspective as a club president.
yeah,
Are there any suggestions you have for like how clubs can better help support local artists? I mean, I guess there's kind of some, you know, no brainers like, oh, like make sure that you're paying them fairly to come in and present to the club and like give them opportunities to like headline local shows and stuff like that. But I'm curious if there's any other maybe less obvious things or just things that you think you'd recommend for folks who run clubs, like how they can help steward their local professionals or like up and coming professionals.
uh-huh. I
That's a
mean,
little
yeah,
of a tough one, but
yeah, that is. I mean, that is, yeah, yeah, like paying you to come in, right? That's obvious. And then, I mean, so, but too, like the Rocky Mountain Club would have like Saturday workshops, and so like they would include that, include me in that. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. Like the things that you've said are what the Rocky Mountain Club did for me, is just supporting, pushing people my way, you know. So I mean, I think a lot of it is like, well, they can do that, but then what do you do? So I think it's like, yeah, the club can support you, but it's up to me. Like, what do I do with it? So I see it as my responsibility. I guess not necessarily theirs.
yeah, that's true. But I think I think clubs should be have it on their mind, right? Because like you were
Sure.
saying, if more people are doing bonsai, it's benefiting them, right? So it's benefiting the club, right? There's more people that are interested. There's more people that their attention is being captured because they're learning
Yeah.
and developing, right? Which like a club might not be able to give that same type of learning, right? Like an
Yeah.
average, like at least in my club, like there's not really club members that are at a professional level, right? So
Right.
it's like having a professional nearby is a super valuable resource. So it's just like
Yeah,
I'm
and
thinking of, how can we make sure that we're supporting those folks?
yeah, and I think I think our club is, the Rocky Mountain Bonsai Society is, they're grateful that I am like in town. That was one thing when I forget. I'll get back to that. But yeah, I think, I don't know, just like pay me to do, or they paid me to do programs. The Botanic Gardens then brought me in to do programs. They pushed people my way. If people were like looking for material, they pushed people my way.
That's good.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. So one other thing that came up whenever we were talking about demos, it kind of made me think of like, oh, I'm doing these demos to try to push myself, right? Like give me that kind of uncomfortable feeling like, oh man, I better make sure I'm sharp. Like I better practice for this. I'm curious for you, like what's the most recent thing you can think of where it was like, oh, this is a little uncomfortable. Like I'm pushing myself. Like even as a professional, I'm sure you still run into things like that. So I'm curious, like, what's been What's been that for you in bonsai, or is it
I mean,
all played out now after so much time?
every time I do a demo, I'm nervous. Every time. So even if I'm like in Las Vegas and they have a very small club, I'm nervous. It's like Texas, I'm nervous. So that's, I don't know, that I as much as I hate being nervous before doing that, and sometimes I get nervous the night before. It's like I have a demo tomorrow night. I'm nervous tonight already, and so it. I don't know. I appreciate that because I know It's like I know I still care, but sometimes like the thing that pushes you the most is, for me, it's like the simple material. Because if you have like a nice collected piece of material, maybe the techniques, and the engineering to create something is a little more difficult, but you already have great trunks, you have all this, whereas creating something really interesting out of a humble piece of material, to me, that's very challenging.
Yeah, to create
You know?
something natural from nothing, right? But
Yeah,
still interesting. Yeah.
that's the game. That's where like there's a game. It's like, how do I turn this into something interesting?
Yeah, whenever you're given like, hey, here's the direction that's given by this, 100+ year old piece of material I've collected with this unique feature that I want to highlight, right? That's a very different constraint from like, hey, this is, a piece of nursery stock that might not have that same, like might have a bunch of straight lines and not have that like age to play off of. Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Or even just like, hey, I've been dealing that a little bit with, I've been trying to start some Shohin juniper whips, right? And so, after they get to a certain thickness, you have to bend them, right? And you have to, you know, you're hoping that this thing that you bend up is going to look interesting 10 years from now, right? So you better invest some thought into making it look, making sure that it's going to grow into something interesting, right?
Yeah. What I used to do when I would do that is I would have get a chalkboard or a whiteboard, and I would just take a pen and just draw like a very interesting, fun line on it, and then try to recreate that with the tree. So
With the
you're not
trunk
like
line?
stuck
Oh,
in
cool.
you're not stuck in like this box where it's like, okay, I got to go down here, and then this, I got to go here. It's like you still need to work with the wire. So when you draw it, you're looking at this two-dimensional line. But when you're actually doing it, you can have, 3 dimensions in it, but it's just a way to kind of keep you out of getting stuck in some sort of box.
Yeah, I know this is I'm about to say something very square, but back in the box. But it would be cool if somebody had like gave a list of like a template per se, right? Like a list of, if you want to make an interesting Shohin juniper, here's 40 different trunk lines that you can try to
Uh-huh.
twist up, and then it's just like you just choose and then you got to do it, right? But
Pick a template.
yeah, exactly. A tree template, a stencil, a
Uh-huh.
whip stencil. That would be funny. I mean, I guess you can kind of do that, right? You can look at, these really old Shohin junipers that you like or whatever kind of tree, and you can kind of reverse engineer it, like, oh, here's the trunk line that they needed to make to get it to be this way. But it's a little bit harder when it's like 40 years down the line, right? Because it's a little harder to see that. But
Yeah.
cool. So one other thing I wanted to ask you about was along this kind of topic of the club and the Colorado bonsai scene is you guys are kind of in a unique place as far as like regional/national shows go, right? Where, you've got the national a bunch of hours to the east, you've got the PBE a bunch of hours to the west. I guess there's some shows in like Chicago and in like Central that might be a little closer, but how do you think of these shows coming from a Colorado standpoint, and like, yeah, like what challenges does all that distance create?
Yeah. So when I first went out, I would go to nationals, and I would always go to Chicago. So I went there for the first few years. St. Louis went there, but then now, I don't know. Now I kind of backed off from some of those, and then like I went to the last PB, and then I go to nationals every time. But yeah, it's a drive to any of those. So I mean, I know like talking with Jonas, and so like they're moving the PB to January. I believe
Yeah,
it's January or February. It's
I think
January?
it's January. Yeah.
Yeah, January. And so, but that's like, it's better for that region. And so I know Jonas was saying like he's looking for more regional shows than like national shows. So I've had people approach me saying, well, why don't you do a
Yeah,
show
Colorado
in
one.
Denver,
Yeah,
in Colorado? It's like, I don't know. I don't, I don't want to do a show. I
that's
say
fair.
that right now, but it's like, I don't want to put on a big regional show. I would be more than happy to be on a board or be part of it, but I don't know. I don't have the time. I don't know. I don't have the time, probably the money or the brain power to to do a show like that at this point, you know.
I think
So
you're selling yourself short, but I agree. Like it's a big investment. Do you think that there would be appetite for that? Like, how would a regional show differ from the annual show from RMBS or something like that? Like, do you think there would be a big pool of people in the surrounding states that would come to a Colorado based show?
I mean, I think it all depends on how do you build it, right? It's like who are you bringing in for the show? What are cash prizes for the show? What are, different, like who's doing the demos for the show? It's like where is the show? So I think it's
Who's vending at the show? Yeah, that's true.
who's going to vend at the show. So I think it all depends on, because at the Rocky Mountain show, I think there's, in just our club, I don't know, maybe there's two vendors or something. There's no one
Hmm.
there really,
Hmm.
and it's just about the local show. It's not even, our show's not even judged, so I think it would all depend on
Okay,
how
so
do
it
you
would be
build
a
it.
very different experience potentially, or
Yeah,
you could make a very different experience, and that would probably
yeah,
draw people in. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with the U.S. is so big. It's like probably a majority of the people who show in the PBE, for example, come from Oregon, California, and Southern California. So
and Bill
it's just a
Valverde.
hard difference. Yes, yeah, that's true.
Bill is like Bill's just crazy because he came, yeah, all the way from Rochester, New York. Him and Mark Arpeg, drove all the way across. It's like Bill just loves bonsai, but yeah, I think him. I don't know.
You guys drove from Colorado, you and
Yeah, it's like were
Will.
we other than Bill? Were we the furthest? I don't know who was the furthest. I think
Yeah,
other than Bill, but
yeah. But I'm just highlighting that takes like a
yeah,
tremendous effort, right? And so the
yeah,
majority of people aren't going to do that realistically, right? So
yeah.
I think the regional model in the US makes sense. But yeah, it just, it is unfortunate to not be able to be included or for it to be very difficult to be included, right? But that's just kind of the nature of the US with all the distance.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when Ryan would go to nationals, I think he would have to leave Sunday night or something, and it was, so it'd take him 5 days with the covered wagon. For me, it takes like 2.5 from here comfortably, so I don't know, it's a long trip, 2 days there, 2.5 days back, but
Yep.
I don't know. The thing, like going to New York, I always drive by myself, and it's actually, once I'm done with the anxiety of like packing everything up and making sure I didn't forget anything, but once I'm on the road and I know like trees aren't shifting and things are going really well, I really do enjoy that
Okay, you
drive.
don't mind it. It's pretty comforty. Okay, that's
There were
good.
times where I would like all day, I wouldn't even turn the radio on and I wouldn't listen to anything. I would just like think about what I've done that year, what do I need to do the following year, and not like have any other
Yeah, almost
distraction.
meditative or
Uh-huh.
reflective. Yeah, that makes sense. Some time to yourself. Yeah, that makes sense, and I think that it's good that it. I mean, it's a testament to your ability to get things done to be able to come to all these shows. Do you find that your clients focus their collections or their goals around specific shows, or it's a
There,
little bit harder because it's harder for them to get their trees there?
I mean, there are some, but there are some too where it's like I'm on them pretty hard about. It's like you need to either show at the national show or show at PBE, but it's like you need to show somewhere. I mean, or part of it's like, well, or what am I doing? And maybe some people just want to enjoy their trees, which I understand, but I don't know. I want to push people to, because there's some great trees that no one has seen. It'd be great if you could get this to one of these shows, or it's like, look, next time I am going to come see you. I'll go drive and I'll pick your tree up. I'll bring it back. I'll get it all prepped, and then I'll take it to, to one of those regions, to one of those PBE or nationals or whatever. I'm trying to push students to get their trees ready and to a level to where you could show them at a high level.
Makes sense. I mean, to me, it just adds a layer of interest and intentionality to their practice, right? It's like, setting goals and, just that long-term payoff of like, what am I building this tree for? And it adds like a compelling reason to continue to work on your tree, right? So but
I've asked some people and they're like, I love my trees and I just want to enjoy them here.
Yeah.
I don't have that goal. And it's like, yeah, I respect that.
Yeah, totally. It's for everyone to decide whether it is their personal goal or not, right? There's no mandate, right? You don't have to do that to enjoy bonsai, but makes sense. Cool. I want to talk with you a little bit about, your thoughts on design. So you mentioned earlier that, as you've developed your professional career, you were kind of saying you go from knowing just what you've learned from your teacher and your classes to kind of taking in influences from other places. And I'm curious how that's affected your kind of design sensibilities. Like, how do you, and especially I'm wondering in terms of like native species, like, do you have any thoughts on, like, I'm not saying the proper way, but your way, or like the way that you like to approach design for like native species? Like when you see a tree, how do you start to distill it into like, what should the design look like for this tree?
Yeah, for one, I think it depends on, for sure, right, the species. But I mean, a lot of what I look at and am inspired by is like the high alpine form. And that really, I don't know, just like the ruggedness and the struggle that, that tree has had. So I think, so too, like with blue spruce, with the spruces that I get, I don't know, there is so many possibilities with that species, just like how it looks, how the branches are, so I think that you have to take all that into place to where if you took it and you just dropped it and made it into a cookie cutter bonsai, I think you've missed something. And so you've just, I don't know, you've tamed this tree that had this potential to really be something else. So I find that with spruces, but I think that like overall I am very like alpine, more pads but smaller, and trying to do that. I think that's.
So when you say alpine, can you elaborate on that a bit? Like, what do you mean by alpine? Like alpine as in literally you're looking at trees in nature as your inspiration, or like alpine as in like what does that influence mean?
I mean, yeah. So I think the tree, like whenever I go collecting and I'm up pretty high in the mountains and just seeing those trees, I think that's where my natural inspiration comes from. And so yeah, when I say alpine, I'm like 8,000 to 12,000 feet.
Got it.
So that's where.
So like what other old trees look like in this area where, you're getting the inspiration as well as collecting trees, right? Like, so how do you marry this desire to have the alpine form with, you also have to still develop and refine the tree over time, right? So I'm curious, like how you've navigated kind of exploring a different form than the traditional form.
Yeah, I think so. Part with like especially Douglas firs, and so this is actually going to be a transition that I'm going to make this year to kind of go away from that. But like in the past, I have not really like pinched spruce or Douglas fir to get density, but instead leaving like kind of longer branches, and then maybe you get like some side branches that you can cut back to, but not getting like the density that you would in a bonsai, because a lot of the alpine, a branch in the alpine, high alpine, anything that is dense is going to probably get broken off. So keeping them very, like a little more sparse, but actually, so that's kind of how I've been like dealing with those species. But then actually this next year, and I was telling Francesco, my apprentice, today, it's like this year we're pinching everything because I think it gets to a point where things are now starting to get a little too long, and we need to force stuff back in. And also, like, I have some trees that I would like to show, like, on a national level, but they don't have the density yet. And so the foliage, mass, the structure, everything is still fairly young. And so I think I just need to build more density in there and maturity in those branches before I am able to show them.
Interesting.
But I still like ponderosas, and limbers. It's like, that's the thing. I still like making bonsai trees, and it's like, I do like, your, I don't know if I'd say cookie cutter, but something where it's like, oh, this is not an alpine form. This is a bonsai tree, so I do like that. And I think maybe that's actually where I've transitioned from the beginning to now, is instead of, because when you're doing like alpine form, wind influence, any of those, there's a lot of freedom, right? Because there's not this template that we have with bonsai. So it's like, it's a little more free and you can kind of do what you want. Whereas with bonsai trees, there's some rules, and some things that you kind of stick by. And so I think actually over time, I've gone a little further away from, I still do it, but I'm not quite as, alpine form, and a little more bonsai. Still in alpine form, it's like multi-apexes, which I still love. And a lot of our species are very, apt and allow you to do that. And it doesn't look contrived, but yeah, I think I've transitioned more to maybe starting to make more bonsai-ish trees versus doing something that looks more natural.
Interesting. What's kind of spurred that? Like you're interested in additional density, or what's kind of leading to that evolution for you personally?
I think part of it's like with some of the stuff I made before, some of the trees I've made before, and looking back on them, the artistic freedom feels a little too much. Where it's like, you look at it, it's like, yeah, I can see that, but at the same time, it's, I don't know, it's just maybe
you want the representation of the craft to be at the highest level too, and like not have a suffering of like the craft aspect for the art aspect. You want a kind of a mixture of both, it sounds like.
Where it's like, oh, I'm going to do this on this tree because that's what I'm seeing in my head, and then I don't know, over time it's like, well, I don't really like that, and
and that's okay. It's totally fine to change your approach and keep things fresh over time. So it's cool to hear about that kind of transition. And I am really excited to see, I don't think we've seen like, this is the highest density that a blue spruce can get to. So I'm really curious to see, I mean, I don't want to get into fertilization and horticulture, but it seems like some of your changes have allowed you to start to change your technical practice on the species, since you've got horticulture dialed in and are really getting a lot of backbuds and things like that to be able to build the trees in a different way. So I think that just goes to show that like all these things are interconnected, the technique and the horticulture and the aesthetic.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty, yeah. When I lost all those trees, I went down that rabbit hole, and I mean, there was a time where I almost, I wanted to quit doing bonsai because it was like so heartbreaking seeing everything. And Ryan texted me, he's like, hey, I heard you're struggling. And it's like, yeah, I feel like quitting, and I feel like I shouldn't be giving, any advice to anyone. And he wrote me back and he goes, you don't become an expert from success. And I was like, all right. So that helped me. It helped kind of ground me and where I was. So, but going down that, it's like I've learned a lot from it. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at with all that stuff. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad that you like use that as a springboard to get an even more solid foundation. And I think that is something that's tough. Like, bonsai is so complex that even when you think you know it all, or not saying that you did, but I'm just saying like even when you've been doing it for a lifetime, like there's always more to uncover and learn, right? And there's always nuance, right? So it's and we're doing an advanced, really art form with a long history in a totally new climate and location, right? So there's all these different stressors and pressures that are new, and especially new to doing bonsai at a high level, right? And so there'll be growing pains throughout that process, right? Which makes sense. And we just have to grow from it and, keep pushing. I think the fact that the real success is like you experienced this and then you made changes and kind of tested them, and, like you've grown from the experience, right? And so that's all that you can really ask for.
Yeah, and I still like think about some of the trees because I got a 20-yard, so I'm only 7 minutes away from my old house. But when I was losing all those trees, I think I'm in a new location it's old horse property, so it's very exposed. And I thought the trees would be stronger. I thought the trees could withstand more than they could, but it's all my fault. I probably I might have gotten a little complacent on some things, but yeah, I got a 20-yard roll-off dumpster and filled it with trees.
Yeah, that's got to be heartbreaking.
But it's learning. And from that now, because maybe not every day, but it's quite often where I think about a tree that I lost. It's like, I had that tree 12 years and it was like dialed in, but it's like, you know what? My garden, I just had to come to the conclusion that my garden just looks different now than it would have if I had those. It just looks different.
Yep.
That's how I've kind of come to terms with that whole thing. So
I think it's an important lesson to share with everyone, because I think a lot of people go through similar experiences, unfortunately. And yeah, I appreciate you kind of sharing that with everyone. So
sure.
The other thing I wanted to ask about is, do you think that there's a unique style or flavor to bonsai that's emerging from Colorado? Because, I feel like, you have some pretty amazing species there, but a lot of those species I feel like have been co-opted by Portland. When people think of Rocky Mountain juniper, are they thinking of, the actual Rocky Mountains, or are they thinking of, Mirai and the Oregon bonsai scene? So I'm just curious, like, what do you think is going to be Colorado's calling card? Is there a specific species? Is there a specific like design influence or regional flavor that you think is going to push to the forefront? I know that's kind of a tough question too, but
that's an interesting question. I think like spruce can be one of them. A lot of times when people think of Rockies, it's like, yeah, you go to the Mirai Gallery and look at all those. And Ryan, so when I first started studying with Ryan in 2012, when I first went out there, I had no idea what I was walking into. And seeing like the size of Rocky Mountain junipers he had, Sierra junipers, the trees in general, but the amount of refinement that he had on those species, even in 2012, was something I had never seen before. But yeah, like pulling from like the time and learning from him. I don't know. I guess people have, and maybe I'm getting off this subject a little, but I know like when I first started like doing this, people were like, when I would go do workshops, it's like, oh, like trees look not like Ryan's, but you could tell like how heavily influenced I was by him. Whereas now they're like, okay, like you have your own style, and so what that is, I don't know. I think it's like high alpine and bonsai mixed together somehow, whatever that is. I don't know. But I don't know. I think spruces could be like a regional thing. I don't know. I'm kind of making things up, but I don't know if.
Yeah, or maybe you reclaim the Rockies. We'll see. But yeah, I'm just curious to see how that develops over time, because I think you're in a position to provide a lot of that regional flavor for the species that you work with and the area, right? So I'm just curious to see how that kind of flavor and style develops in the region over time.
I think that, yeah, I pull from my time at Ryan's, but I do also think I have like my own my own style now, whether it's with ponderosas or Rockies or spruces or
Yep.
limbers, whatever I'm making. But yeah, I mean, excuse me, like Ryan had and still or has, it's like he has his style. Like Bjorn, he was working with Rocky Mountain species and species from, New Mexico and different things like that. And he had a style. So I don't know, it's like it's like the artist's interpretation. And even like some of my students, it's like, oh, like Matt Wright. It's like when we're working on trees, it's like, oh, Matt has a style. Or like Isaiah in Milwaukee, it's like he has a style and he hasn't been doing things for very, so it's like it's the kind of individual person can pull different things out of.
Yeah, I like Matt's work a lot. I've seen some on Instagram, and
Yeah.
you guys are doing a good job.
Yeah, Matt's good. Isaiah's very good, so there's a lot. That's one of the fun things too now. There's a lot of practitioners that are very good at doing bonsai.
Yeah, I have seen definitely the general level rising a lot, and I think that's due to, professionals like you and people setting up shop and like helping foster these local groups, right? And just like the availability of knowledge is so much higher now, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's pretty powerful. I wanted to ask you about you mentioned your apprentice a few times. I'd love to just get a little background on that. Like, how did that come about? Like, why did you decide it was the right time for you in your practice? Like just your general thoughts on that, because that's very interesting to me, and I'm sure the kind of folks that listen to the podcast and are interested in learning more.
Yeah, so I had, for Francesco, there were 3 other people that asked if they could apprentice here, and I told them all no, because it just was not something I was interested in or something I was wanting to do. And actually 24, when Francesco came out to class, he's like, hey, I would like to come study here, and move out and apprentice here, because I'm in a position right now where I could do that. And it's like, I'm not your guy. It's like, go to, there's 3 other people that maybe would take you as an apprentice. I would go talk to them. And he never did. He didn't go talk to anyone else. And then he was out here in August again, and we were just talking in class, and the apprenticeship thing came up again. And so I just looked, I go, is that something you're still interested in? And he's like, yes. So I was like, look, this is what I can do. And so I told him, like, here's what things would look like. I can't really, get you an apartment. I can't do all these things, but I can, like, I basically told him I'd board all your trees. And so he was like, okay. And so when I was actually driving to Nationals, he called me. He's like, hey, I have everything set up to where I can be there in November. And so I was like, great. And so, I think part of it is I'm at a point to where I need some help here, and yeah. I think that's part of it, but also like him and I, we get along really well. He's good already. Like that was one of the things he showed a tree at Nationals. Yeah, he has some skills already, and because he had stayed with me before, like he likes my approach and my aesthetic, and so we work really well like that together. Yeah, so he's here 6 days a week.
Oh wow.
That's what he's been doing. He's been coming here 6 days a week since November. And so, I don't know, but one of the interesting things...
Do you have a certain like amount of time that you guys are agreeing on that he'll stay, or how is that kind of set up?
I mean, he was like, I'll stay a minimum... He was saying like a minimum of 1 year. He goes, I may go longer, but he's like, that's all I can commit to right now. So I was like, that's fine, I'll take that. And so, but part of having an apprentice, I guess it puts pressure on me as well, which I like, because this guy like got rid of everything and moved here from New Jersey to study under me, so that puts a lot of pressure on me to make sure I'm giving him what, his time is worth for the sacrifice that he made, So yeah, I think in a way, like, it's going to help him, because back east, there's not a lot of gardens out there. And I think that may be something that he's going to want to he wants to open someday. And so it'll be good for that, but also it'll be good for him to get the knowledge that he can get from me to take back. But it's also good for me to have, someone there that
helps you refine your own teaching process, as well as just keeps you honest in the work that you do day to day, right? And like also helps you just improve your collection.
It does. I mean, I think so one of the things several years ago that really helped me, especially like with wiring, was I would keep myself accountable. And so if I wired something and there was a better way to do it, instead of being like, well, it's just me, I'll leave it. It's like, no, I have to redo it so it looks correct. And so like keeping myself accountable with that. So I think whether he is here or not, I think I am holding myself to a high
standard.
standard.
Yeah.
I am. But at the same time, having him come here and having that pressure to give him what he needs for the sacrifice that he made is also, it's elevating me as well, because it's pushing me. So that was something, I don't know, it was kind of surprised when I realized what was happening with that from my point of view, and how it was pushing me and helping me with my practice as well.
That's really cool to hear. That's a very interesting reflection. I actually this brought up some thoughts for me. I really loved your class structure and classes with you, and there were a few things that I wanted to point out. One was, I totally noticed that whenever I was taking classes with you, I was just starting to like learn to, or like really getting into wiring with copper, and you 100% exactly what you explained. Whenever I did something incorrect, it wasn't, just leave it, it'll be fine enough. It was, let's do it correctly, right? And that really helped support my development over the multiple years that I was coming there. And then the other things I really appreciated, which I think are fairly unique, are like, you can kind of pick and choose the types of classes that you want to take there. So come for repotting, come for design, right? Which I think was like, for me, having to travel, like that was nice to get like, hey, when I travel here, I'm getting exactly what I'm interested in, which is really nice. And then you had just built the kind of air conditioned room for the workshop, and like it was very comfortable working in there, which was great. The other thing which is like very unique in my mind is the material that I was working on, and the breadth of work that I was able to do is like unmatched. There's not many people where you can come to their garden and then work on like a tree that you would realistically buy, like a nice bonsai in like a raw form, collected material that like lends itself well to a traditional form, like is a good bonsai. I think that kind of material is like unmatched for improving, right? And getting reps on trees that you'd actually want to have in your own collection. And then, if I was allowed to do the structural wiring and, help with the bends on the guy wires and stuff like that. And that's, I think you give people a really, really differentiated experience and a really good experience in your classes. So definitely keep that up, I think. And I've talked to people who come to your classes in the last like year or two as well, and they all had that same experience. So I just wanted to shout you out for that, because I thought that was really cool. And I think people who are on their learning journey, if they're looking for those specific things, I think your classes are an amazing option for that.
Yeah, thanks. That is one of the things that I wanted to have. It's like I wanted to have, depending on what the person wanted to do and what their skill set was, it's like I've also bought like quiches from Telpurian, to have people work on if they're going to massacre a Rocky Mountain juniper. It's like if their wiring's not there, but they're still nice trees. But that was one of the things that I wanted to have when I was having class. It's like, I want to have raw trees here that, that maybe a lot of people, they couldn't afford, and unless they came here, maybe they would never, be able to get a piece of material like that, and so, and that's one of the reasons why, like, I quit selling raw stock to online, like on my website or, going to clubs or anything like that, was because it's like I wanted to have like a really good selection of trees that people could could work on here and not, something that will push everyone. Yeah, like a really nice collected piece of material that we can work on and collaborate on and design. And yeah, no, I appreciate that though. But that's
Yeah, it
one of
definitely shows that it was very
this
intentional.
model.
Yeah, that how you set up. I love that approach. The other thing, I really liked the class sizes too. It was nice when we had like 4 kind of people for like an advanced design course that felt
You know.
like a good size that you were able to, get to everyone and, there wasn't a lot of idle time, which was awesome.
Yeah, I've had 6. That's the most.
Mm.
And then this year, 6 is too much. Like I feel like, and so like 5 is comfortable, 4 is very comfortable. So, but that's the thing. Like 4 days, so it's like okay, $900 plus your flight, plus rental car if you need it, plus hotels. That's a lot of money, So you're in, I don't know, 25, 3 grand every time, So I don't know. If there's 10 people in class, it's like, well, you might as well, to me, it's like, well, that's like doing a workshop at your club for 4 days. It's like, I want like almost like small study groups type groups, of the class size, sorry. Yeah, so it's like I can just keep going around with everyone. Everyone gets plenty of time. I can check in with everyone. No one's like waiting for me to come back around. It's like if I'm working with someone and someone has a question, it's like, yeah, just yell at me. That's the whole thing. If I'm out watering, just yell at me. Because, one thing I do too is you can come other than the first day, but it's like all the other days, it's like you can come as early as you want and stay as late as you want, And so it's like, it's up to you how much time you put in. If you want to show up at 10 and leave at 3, that's fine. If you want to get there at 6 and leave at 8 at night, then that's fine too. So it's like just making sure that people, yeah, get their money worth and get, the time that
Get what
they
they
want.
want out of the class. Yeah, I think you do a really, really good job of that. Cool. So this has been an awesome conversation. I've really enjoyed catching up. I wanted to end with I'm always curious as to what the newest addition is at the First Branch Nursery. So I'd love to understand a little bit more about your latest project. And then I also wanted you to leave us kind of with something you're excited for 2026.
Yeah. So I started building, well, this is something I'm excited for too, but I did all the structure for my show garden. And then like the south side of the big structure that I had, there's kind of empty space, unutilized, and basically anywhere in my garden where there's unutilized space, I want to put benches in. So I put more benches in there, but now I'm building like the structure for the show gardens in. I'm just finishing up on putting the benches in, but then I still have to do the hardscape and landscape, and so, but yeah, I have a section that blocks off it's 6x6s and then 2x4s like alternating on it, and it'll frame in the show garden from the rest of the garden. But in there I want to put like wisteria and grapes, because it's
cool.
Also, they both kind of like vine up and kind of mingle together and grow together, and then I can be able to kind of start pulling them across, maybe, I don't know, just letting them go crazy because wisteria goes nuts as it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's one thing I'm really excited. Yeah, that I'm excited about is finishing the show garden, landscaping that, because yeah, I have it to where my workshop faces south and it's all glass. And so the show garden's right outside the workshop. So when you look at the workshop, with the glass, you'll see that. And so I have it set up so it's all going to be like just really big trees. And so I think that's one of the things that I'm really excited about is some of the trees that I've been sitting on to design, like, trees that are like 4 or 5 feet tall that I haven't designed yet that I'm sitting on, that are gonna go in there. So I don't know, there's some big work. There's some big work that I'm going to get ready to do
when you have a place to really show it off. Yeah, that'll be so cool. Yeah, I've loved every addition you've put in. Has looked really excellent and very tasteful. So I'm excited to see see what your mind does for the show garden, and definitely I need to plan a trip to Denver so I can stop by and see it.
Yeah, come out anytime.
Sweet. So I wanted to leave listeners with, I'm curious what their biggest risk that they've contemplated or thought of taking is in relation to bonsai. Like, what's that thing that you've been like, man, it would be a big commitment, but I could be like Francesco and, move to Colorado. I could be like Todd and start a bonsai business. I'm curious if listeners could send messages to at Teeny Trees and see, what that is for them. And then for you, are there any kind of final thoughts you want to leave us with, or any kind of shout outs? Well, I know we've said your nursery name quite a few times, but how can folks see your work and get in touch with you? What's the best way to do that?
On Instagram, I'm Todd Schlafer on there. Just look me up. I mean, it's my logo on there. Instagram is probably the best. I don't know. I don't do TikTok or any of that stuff, so I'm not on there. But yeah, Instagram,
I don't think you're missing much. So
yeah, I don't think so either. Instagram is probably the best place to see my work. But I mean, for me, when I left my job to do bonsai full time, I figured the worst thing that would happen is I would have to find another job, and whether it's bonsai or not. I don't know, for any of your listeners out there, it's like, is there something that inspires you, or something that is a hobby that you love that maybe you could turn into a career? That's what bonsai was for me. It was a hobby, but it was a passion. And for me, it's like to get where in my head I wanted to be. I knew I had to do it full time, but I don't know. I know some people that are, like they take people out on fly fishing trips, and it's like maybe something like that could be your hobby. So it's like, just find a passion, and is that something that you could turn into a career? Because my dad always said, it's like, my dad loved his job, and he said he never worked a day in his life.
Does bonsai feel like that to you? Do you feel like you've never worked a day in your life, or
no?
Okay,
It's not, especially when I have to shovel 5 yards of pumice.
Yeah.
There's some things I dislike, but would I trade it for any other job? No. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. I appreciate you staying up late there in Colorado. I guess it's not too late, but thank you for taking the time, and looking forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, it'd be great seeing you in Japan, and thanks for asking me to do this. I do appreciate it. So.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks, Todd.
All right. Bye, Addison.